Hi, I'm here with Bishop Gary Rivas. Is that how you say
That's
it?
it.
Okay, and I'm going to interview him for my Act Up project. How old are you?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I'm 57. I'm not kidding. 57.
Okay. What is your cultural and ethnic background, and how has it influenced your identity?
Okay. So I'm South African, English speaking South Africa. South African. In South Africa, we have 11 official languages. So I know it's a lot of official languages, and they're all official languages. So although English is the most widely spoken. But I think that being English speaking and from Africa, like a lot of people are surprised that it's English speaking African. But I think part of being African and coming from Africa has shaped my identity in a lot of ways because of the cultural diversity, the sense of community and like togetherness that you experience in Africa. I think that's a lot to do with shaping me, my culture.
How long have you been serving in ministry?
I went into ministry in really giving my age.
19.
In 1997 was my first year, and I had my first church in 1997, and so yeah, since 1997.
What did leadership mean to you when you were younger?
I think that leadership for me, I've always been a leader. Just by virtue of I don't think I could help myself, and so I always assumed leadership positions, or I was always voted into leadership positions, but it was nothing. It was not something that I thought to myself, I want to aspire to be a leader. For me, and I'm trying to sound as humble as possible, but for me, it was just natural. It was, in the church we speak about spiritual gifts, and one of my spiritual gifts is leadership.
Wow. So has that changed for you? And if so, what does it mean to you now?
Yeah, I think that my idea of leadership, and then I think the one thing that has changed when I was younger was leadership. When I thought of leaders or leadership, I thought you think of someone that's sort of with this authority, with this power, but it's changed a lot in that, especially in my faith in that, because Christ is my inspiration as a leader, and he called us to serve. And that service was critical. And so it changed. What really changed was I didn't see leadership as something that you have this power over people, but rather you're called to serve people as a leader.
Are there any challenges you faced as a leader, personally, socially, or spiritually?
How much time do you have?
A lot. We can go through it all.
I think that if you're going to lead, there is no doubt that you put yourself out there, and so if you lead, along with leadership comes criticism. When you're a leader, you become a target in a sense, and so you have to get used to that, because becoming a leader is not a popularity contest. We think it is. We think, well, because we vote leaders in. That's our understanding of leadership. So we vote. At school or in the country, whatever, you vote. So basically the leader becomes the person with the most votes. Leadership is not a popularity contest at all. It's not about who's popular, because in leadership you have to make really tough decisions, and not everyone's going to be happy with your decision, and so it's going to affect you on all levels, and so whether it be in the church, if you want to affect change, people, actually any organization, you're going to be criticized because you're taking the lead in change. You're a change agent, and not everyone is happy with change. No one wants to change or keep things as they were. And so just in that, and then by virtue of that, obviously then those closest to you also get hit by friendly fire. People that are critical of you become, your family's affected by that, So I think that leadership, and that is definitely not a soft option in terms of all the praise and all the popularity and all the rest of it. That's a small part of that, is leadership, is you get to sort of be on the top, but there definitely is a lot of places that where you get criticized and where you'll be torn apart, and just people will be unhappy with decisions that you make. But again, as a leader, your job is not to make people happy. Your job is to forge your way forward and influence as many people to follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your relationship like with Nelson Mandela?
So it was a lot closer with Winnie Mandela because a fair amount of my time, certainly up in my 5 years that I spent as a bishop, and so with the Mandela family and their daughters. It was a pretty special time. It was a tough time because a lot of our country was divided on race. And so it was weird for some people to have me as the Mandela pastor and caring for Winnie Mandela, especially the last couple of days. But yeah, it was it didn't seem. It seems like for me more of a big thing after the fact than it was at the time. At the time, it was part of just what I did in terms of my pastoral responsibility.
So how did your community initially react to that leadership?
With them specifically?
And the work you did with them?
Yeah, look, it was very divided in that, so for a lot of the conservative old guard, for want of a better word, in terms of where we came from, South Africa, viewed it, in fact, I remember when Winnie Mandela died, a lot of white conservative people felt that I was a traitor, because we'd gone through a war, really, in South Africa. And so they thought and they saw me as having, gone to the other side, but I don't really care about that, in the sense that, again, the thing around leadership is if you're a leader, people are going to be offended by you or not going to be happy with who you are or what you're doing in that, But my job as a pastor is to care for anyone, whether it be a prime minister, whether it be a president, whether it be a person, or a homeless person on the street, And so, and I do understand the legacy around Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela as great icons in world history, and I have no issue. I understand that. But whether it was them or whether it was a homeless person, for me, when you're called to minister or to pastor to people, it's without fear or favor. It doesn't matter who they are. You treat them the same,
Yeah.
And certainly from both of them, that's what in their mind what they would have expected anyway, because that's the type of people they were,
So I recall reading an article about how you received death threats for your work with them.
Yeah.
Did that affect you, and if so, how? And did it make you want to stop your work?
Yeah.
And if it did, what kept you going?
Yeah, I think that it was, to be honest with you, it was more, my family was more affected. I remember after I received the first couple of death threats, my daughter was graduating from college, and I was told that I can't attend her graduation because the threat was, and some of the people linked to the threats were, I don't know how it was linked, but some of them they were linked to in the old army to explosives and stuff like that, and it was going to be in an auditorium, a huge big auditorium at the college. And so at first they said that it was too much of a risk for me to go to my own daughter's graduation. So that's when I really started realizing, in terms of it affecting my family, and I don't mind if it was me, because I'm the one that's doing the work. But when you start to imagine that it's how much it affects, that actually this affects your family as well, it becomes difficult then, because it's, in a way, it's almost selfish of going, well, I've got work to do, I don't really care about my family, which of course I did care about my family, So from that perspective, it was pretty hard, and with the support of my family and friends, I continued doing the work because, I wasn't going to stop doing it, because I'm called to do what I do, and, just not doing it was not an option at all. And so we just took extra care in that around the family and security, and we were just careful about our daily stuff. And I ended up going to my daughter's graduation, albeit with bodyguards and and a secure car and all the rest of it, but I still managed to go, so I was grateful for that.
Do you still receive threats like that?
No, I've got nothing.
That's nice.
Oh, it's really nice. Trust me, that's a big difference. Yeah, at the time it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
You know,
I can only imagine.
But it's okay. It's that it. I just came with. I was shocked at first. Then when I received the first death threat.
Did you believe it?
Yeah, I was. It was actually a phone call that someone phoned me from a burner phone, and then probably then I had a couple of stuff just over social media and stuff like that, and then a text, and then about 3 weeks after that, we thought things had calmed down, and then I used to ride a motorbike every now and again, and I thought things had calmed down. And I was told not to ride my motorbike because it was dangerous, because if someone T-bones you, Anyway, guys nearly just outside my house, they were waiting for me, and they nearly rode me over, and I fell off my bike, and the guy pulled out a gun, and just said, this is. So some of it was, and then once in a while after that, I was shot at, but they missed. So.
Wow, yeah. That's actually scary.
Yeah, they missed. So. I know they were close. They were really a bad shot. I mean, they weren't far from me at all, and they missed completely. So, so.
Okay, finally, what advice would you give to young leaders today who want to make a positive impact in their communities?
Look, for me, there's no doubt about it. Is that you cannot lead by yourself. So, from a faith perspective, I think that to have, in my case, God and a relationship with Jesus Christ is absolutely critical, because it keeps you grounded, And so you look at the life of Jesus, who any Christ follower would want to emulate, is saying, so Christ is my example on how to lead. And so that's the one thing, because the thing about leadership is that you can go ahead of yourself, So because you're leading, and because you have people that are following you, it's easy to get ahead of yourself and think that you're actually better than you are,
Yeah.
But if you have, like in my example, if I'm clear about I'm following Christ, and I have a continuous example of who I can look up to and who I can try and be like, well, that keeps me level-headed and keeps me humble, in a sense that I don't get ahead of myself. And I do get ahead of myself sometimes. And that's almost the drug of leadership, and of power, that you have this following, or you have whatever, and it's a dangerous game. So that's the first thing. The second thing is so you have the spiritual mentor, as in Jesus Christ, but you have a mentor at all times, because becoming a leader will be one of the loneliest things you'll ever do, because who does the leader go to, So I pray, and I have Christ, and I pray, and that's helpful. So I have a space. But I say to leaders that you should never lead without a mentor. Well, A, that you can ask advice from, B, that you can just release frustrations and that, and C, for them to tell you, hold on, you're straying, there's something going, you need someone to speak into your life that can say, let me give you a quick example. I was in ministry. And just coming into ministry, I was involved in a very, very influential church, very busy. And even as a trainee minister, I was I had a lot of responsibilities because of this church that I was at. And I had a mentor that was assigned to me by the church in your training. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, I arrived at his office once, and I was late because, honestly, I can tell you now, I was incredibly busy with ministry and all the rest of it. And I got there and I said to him, I apologize, I'm sorry, mate. And the guy said to me, it's unacceptable. And I was like taken aback. It's like, I'm doing hard work, and I'm really working hard. And it's not that I was at home watching Netflix, I was really working, And he said to me, he said, I get it. He says, I understand your time is more important than my time. And I'm like, no, I was so embarrassed. No, I'm not saying this, but clearly you are, because you're happy to keep me waiting for you,
Yeah.
So your time's more important. The point is that he spoke into my life, big time, you know, and he, he humbled in a nice way.
Yeah.
I mean, he humbled me, you know. It's like, and he's right. Like, you know, my time's not better than, and I'm just being late to things. I mean, and sometimes it happens, but it's disrespectful, you know. And so I learned a very early lesson in ministry, certainly through a guy who was prepared to call me out on me being late, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's the type of thing, and that's important. So the point I was getting around to was that having a mentor is really important.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, having Jesus in your life, you know, that you can follow, you know, having a mentor that you can just bounce things off, and then having someone that can also call you on stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you for participating in my interview.
You're welcome.
I have been dying to sit you down for years to
so glad.
Talk to you about this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking me. I'm the one that's privileged, so thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
Take care.